where you got it intellectually, but when it came to putting it into practice, not so easy? Right. That's because we have to develop new behaviors. Particularly, we have to develop new habits. The book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, really means that there are certain things that exceptional people do that give them the results that they want, and they've done them consistently enough that we can say these things, these behaviors, these decisions are common among people who are really effective or successful. So we can do that for ourselves. We're going to talk about habits now. If you'll go back to your workbook, we left off, I believe, on page 14. Is that right? I'm practicing up another pages by heart. That might say something. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. All right, we're going to talk about habits. First of all, I want to stress to you that habits do require consistency, but they also require time to develop. You don't overnight, just because you have a new understanding, develop a new habit. Interestingly, we used to say that it takes about 30 days to develop a new habit. Anybody ever heard that before? That in 30 days, if you do something, you develop a new habit. Well, guess what? New research says, no, it takes 262 days to develop a new habit. That's about 9 months, which means that you have to be willing to not only stick with it, but in that 9 months, you think you're always going to keep doing it perfectly, hitting the mark of what you're trying to do? No, you have to give yourself permission to make progress. Successful people create habits that failures don't. In fact, successful people usually have habits that are quite different than people who are just marginally successful. The greatest people, the people who are excelling beyond and above the rest of others in their field or in their profession, are people who do things that may even seem odd sometimes to other people, but it is the thing that takes them to the next level. I have a colleague named Brian Tracy, who's a speaker and an author, and Brian says that only about 2% of us in a population, of any population, are exceptionally successful. It says that, 12% of the people are pretty successful, but of the 12%, 2% are really successful. So what we're saying here is the 2%ers do something that the other 10 don't do. Here's an example. Michael Jordan. I am not giving LeBron a title. Michael was the greatest. I watched a documentary not long ago about Michael Jordan, and they interviewed his coach, Phil Jackson, and they asked Phil Jackson, what made Michael so great? And Phil Jackson said, we would review the film of the previous game as a team. We'd watch it a couple of times, and we'd point out where the weak areas were. Michael would always request to keep the tape on his own, and he would sit and watch that film over and over. But when he was watching it those third and fourth times, Michael wasn't looking at what anyone else was doing but Michael. So essentially, Michael Jordan was always competing against himself. And we see how that worked for him. So I want you to think about what are the things that I can do that can take me to the next level. I can tell you one thing, you're doing the right thing about being around other successful people. Don't think you have to go in, be the person who knows everything, work in isolation. But you do want to soar above, kind of like eagles. You ever notice that eagles soar above other birds? So that's the first step. You got to really decide, am I even surrounding myself with people who want to soar? Another way of saying it is if you want to soar like an eagle, you can't keep scratching around with the chicken. We are definitely more people-oriented in our functions than just task-oriented. Did you know we spend 75% of our waking hours at work? That means most days you're with the people that you work with longer than the people you live with. So if that's the case, the people interaction, the interpersonal skills become very, very important. Very important.